Hi everyone and welcome to Bassman Studio. After a brief hiatus, I'm back and glad to be back and glad to see you watching my video. In this new video, I'm going to be focusing on a new painting challenge, this time Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's been called the Dutch Mona Lisa, so in effect it's a continuation of the last video I did, which is painting the Mona Lisa in 5 minutes. So it's a new painting challenge for me. So I'll be going over the basic painting techniques and what I'm doing, and you can follow along and try it yourself. It's a lot of fun. Just a little backstory. Vermeer of Delft lived in the 17th century in Holland, in Delft, and was one of the great masters of Dutch painting. He is considered on par with Rembrandt and a lot of Dutch masters at the time, such as Frans Hals, but his feeling of light and shade is unique, and he was truly a master at capturing light. So sit back and relax, enjoy this new video from Bassman Studio, and thanks for watching. So here is the famous Girl with a Pearl Earring that we're going to be copying, and as always we start with a toned panel. And using a little bit of burnt sienna, I start the drawing. So we're just, as I showed you in previous videos, we start drawing out the basic shape. What we call the contour in art, which is the outside shape of whatever we're painting at the moment. And you can see I'm not adding any detail at the moment, just the big shapes and working out the composition. Now, of course, Vermeer would have painted a little differently, but this method of painting is a time-honored technique, and it's been used for hundreds of years. So you do want to keep everything very simple and think of big masses of shape. And we're just going to place the eyes, nose, and mouth where they should be, with no detail. So in the beginning, it looks pretty cartoony. And you can see I'm leaving everything open and loose. And now we could start adding some of the basic shadows. So we know that the light's coming from the left-hand side, so the shadows are on the right-hand side. So now I'm adding just the big masses of shadow. And there's beautiful light hitting her. As I mentioned, Vermeer was a master at painting light. And as you can see, it starts to look pretty three-dimensional, even at this early stage. So you want to continue using a monochromatic palette, meaning there's only one color I'm using, which is burnt sienna. Some artists prefer, let's say, black or even green to draw out the shapes, which is fine as well. But I find that burnt sienna gives it a warm glow. And it's also a quick drying paint, so this will be pretty much dry by the time we start using paint. So now I'm adding the background, and the background is going to push our figure forward. So I mixed a little bit of black with a little bit of blue, just to give it a very deep, dark color. And you just want to go all around until we cover the entire background. Very simply, very, very large strokes and a large brush. Large flat brush is always good for this part. And now, mixing the flesh tone. So I mixed a little bit of white with red and a little bit of yellow to get a flesh tone. And we're just going to, again, keeping it simple, we're just going to mass in the large areas of light. I may go over part of my drawing, that's fine. I could always bring it back. And just add a little bit more red in the cheek. And you can see at this early stage, and that we're still massing in like large shapes. And now I'm putting in the beautiful ochre color of what she's wearing, and also the beautiful blue in her turban. Which is close to what Vermeer would have used. And just a little bit of more yellow in the turban as well. So you can see it's starting to turn, have a bit more of a shape. And just a little bit of light. And you can see there's a little bit of light hitting her on her collar. So now we're adding the shadows. And there's some deep, beautiful shadows in this painting. But right now we're just concerned with placing them where they should be, just to get a sense of where the light's coming from. So just going around, avoiding detail as long as I can. And this is pretty much alla prima. Now, of course, Vermeer probably wouldn't have painted alla prima since he was very slow and methodical. But since we're copying the painting, we're just going to do a quick sketch. Alla prima pretty much means just wet on wet. So wet on wet technique. So we're painting while the oil is still wet. We're not letting it dry and doing another layer. And just adding the shadow on the turban. And you can see the light starts to have direction at this point. And now I'm just going over the background, giving it more of a long, dark tone, giving it more solidity at this point. And just going around all over, just to push it back a little bit more. And just fixing a bit of her chin. So here you could fix anything that needs to be fixed. And now I'm just blending and softening the shadows. And again, I'm fixing a little bit of the shadows at this point. And making it turn a little bit more. And applying very, very little pressure at this point just to blend while the paint is still wet. So I'm just going around and blending all the areas I believe need to be blended for the moment. And you can see it's starting to really turn, which is important, even at this early stage. And that's the great thing about working alla prima, is that you can move the paint around while it's wet. And now with a smaller brush, I'm adding in smaller details such as the eyes. Very carefully. This is where you want to have a very steady hand. You could use a maul stick if it'll help you. But you still want to keep everything pretty loose. So right now it has the consistency almost of a watercolor at this point. And very carefully adding in the mouth. And just using the same brush to fix any contour area in the background. So this is where you want to be a little bit more careful. So you're going to work from large to small. And now I'm just adding a bit more in the shadow area, just to give it more of a solidity and more of a transparency. And you can see how beautiful it is when the paint is still wet. You can still blend and you can still move paint around. And just softening the shadow on her cheek. And you can even fix her chin. As you can see, it's a very impasto area of paint, so I could just move it around. And here I'm using an even smaller brush. So you see I'm going from a very large brush to a medium brush to a very small brush to add the eyelids. And again, you just want to have a very steady hand at this point. And just the nostrils. It's always important to have a really nice round brush for these details. Good brushes are very essential for good painting, so make sure you have very good brushes. And just a few more dark areas. And a little bit of a beautiful dark area right underneath her chin. Just to pull out, as you can see, it helps pull out the light from the background. So little by little it starts to form into a cohesive painting. And we also want harmony and balance, and Vermeer was very much about harmony and balance, about harmonizing colors, etc. And here we could add a beautiful blue for the shadow area, and you can see how wonderful that blue just pops out, basically skin tone. And just adding a little bit more shadow underneath on her turban. And with this brush, it's almost like you're redrawing the painting. So you're fixing any drawing mistakes. And adding all the beautiful detail. And even blending, you could even blend with this brush. And now, just working and cleaning up any area left undone. So you can still see kind of the burnt sienna underpainting, and I'm just covering the underpainting, giving it more of a roundish quality. Now, just adding final details, especially the earring, which is its focal point. So just making that stand out more. And lastly, fixing the background a little bit and blending any other area that needs to be blended. And also sharpening any contours that need to be sharpened. So you just want to go all around. And it's always good to have a rag and a good brush. And just fix anything that needs to be fixed. And there we have it, our finished girl with a pearl earring painting. So I hope you enjoyed that brief video from Basement Studio. Remember, any questions or comments you may have, please leave them in the comment section. Anyone who hasn't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to see more videos coming up very soon from Basement Studio. Those who have subscribed, thank you very much for subscribing to my channel. Also check out a fellow artist's website called Masterpiece Art School, where I have a workshop video, different videos on painting portraits and landscapes. So check that out. The link will be in the description below. And check out my website and give me a follow on Instagram under Bassman Studio if you wish. And again, thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for the new video from Bassman Studio, which should be coming up pretty soon. And have a great and amazing day. Remember, be creative, be brave, and don't let fear stop you from creating masterpieces yourself. Have an amazing day, everyone. Goodbye.